Grayson Ardies has been the Oklahoma State Director of Aeronautics since November 2020. He began working for the Commission in 2009. He's led many statewide agency initiatives, including a 3-year effort working with the state legislature on the protection of military training airspace. He also managed a 2-year project involving economic impact of aerospace and aviation, which established the industry as the second largest economic engine in the state. Please help me welcome Grayson Ardies.
Morning, everybody. Looking for my clicker. So Aviation Aerospace, we have had an amazing opportunity in our state. Obviously, we all know about Wiley Post, Will Rogers, and the accident that they had happen. We know about General Tom Stafford, our favorite astronaut's son in Oklahoma. It is our state's second largest industry. But not just in Oklahoma, but across the country, we've experienced challenges, specifically that workforce challenge. And this is really probably the first time in the history of aviation that we've experienced that challenge. And today, I want to talk to you a little bit about how I expect that challenge to be overcome in the next couple of years because of a little industry called the UAS, or the drone industry. And I promise I'm not going to drone on and on today. Clearly, I need to keep my day job and not go to stand-up comedy. Appreciate that. But in all good fairness, aviation has come a long way as a mode of transportation. Obviously, it's clearly my favorite mode of transportation. I'd probably have some debate with each one of you on your favorite mode of transportation. But when you look at aviation, it's pretty amazing to see where we've come. That fateful day in December 1903, when the Wright brothers went 120 feet in 12 seconds. In Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, flying a 27-mile-an-hour wind, which they called a very breezy opportunity. We in Oklahoma know that's just an average day. To almost 6 decades later, when Neil Armstrong hopped off that lunar lander, July 20th, 1969, they flew over 240,000 miles, taking 76 hours in the Apollo mission to get to the moon and make that first step, that giant leap for mankind. And those 6.5 decades in aviation were pretty amazing. Workforce challenges, really the only challenge we had was getting more people. People wanted to come, but how did we get them trained up to be the worker that they needed to be? We had these things called World War I, World War II, which created a lot of energy, a lot of entrepreneurial spirit, a lot of drive to want to help support the country in our wartime efforts. And obviously, aviation benefited. There are tons of new developments, tons of new technologies. Every year, there is a new flying machine of some kind that came around. But at the end of the day, a lot of that effort was paid for because of sacrifices and injuries and crashes and millions of dollars that went down the drain because inventions didn't work. We moved into the Cold War and the space race, and we got tons of free marketing to bring workforce into the aviation aerospace sector. Obviously, we wanted to go beat the Russians. We wanted to go win the space race. We wanted to make it to the moon first. We wanted to make sure that we could go into that next beyond. And there are people lining up at the door to go join aviation aerospace and become a worker to support the great industry, not just for our country, but for the state of Oklahoma as well. Anybody that's in aviation aerospace will tell you, it's like a drug, it's like a disease. And I know those are negative connotations, but they're really a positive thing. Because once you've been bitten by that bug, once you've gotten aviation's hooks in you, once it's flowing through your bloodstream, it's never going to let go. You will always love aviation. There's a famous quote, some of you may have heard it. For once you have tasted flight, you will forever walk this earth with your eyes turned skyward. For there you have been, and there you always long to return. Leonardo da Vinci said that, and it's true. I'm an aviator, I'm hooked. It's a drug, but it's a good drug. The problem is today, though, we don't have enough people joining our aviation aerospace workforce. We really don't. And that's a struggle because at the end of the day, if we can't create that new exciting thing for our young people to want to grasp onto to go join aviation aerospace, not only are we going to suffer as a state, but we're going to suffer as a country. And so that's one of the challenges that I think everyone in this room can put their heads together to try and figure out how do we overcome that challenge. And there are some neat things on the horizon, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. Imagine what drones can do for your business, for the state of Oklahoma, for the country, for our world. It is changing the way we think about how we do jobs every single day. Obviously, there's been no better time to be in our state right now in aviation aerospace. We have a governor, our state CEO, who's a pilot. We have our U.S. Senator, our senior U.S. Senator, Jim Inhofe, pilot. We have a congressman that's a pilot. The rest of our congressional delegation supports. We have high-level state and local officials that are either pilots or aviation enthusiasts. There's been no better time to be in this great industry of aviation aerospace than right now. So what is a UAS? And you'll hear me use these terms interchangeably: unmanned aircraft systems, drones. For those of you that saw the drone demonstration out there about an hour ago, those are some pretty neat drones, but those were off-the-shelf drones, able to be used, able to be purchased by any one of you for personal use, for professional use, for business use. A UAS consists of several different items. It consists of the remote pilot, the ground transmitter, the aircraft, and whatever payload that aircraft may be flying. We'll even talk a little bit here in the presentation about AAM or UAM, Advanced Air Mobility, Urban Air Mobility. Those payloads are people, but there is no pilot. So basically what a drone or a UAS is: an uncrewed aircraft, whether it's carrying a package, a camera, people, going from point A to point B. And at the end of the day, it really is truly amazing. And you'll talk to some of those people that were from the Oklahoma State University USRI program and how they have been influenced by UAS in drones and how they use them in their day-to-day business, how they're trying to move the state forward and move industries forward with research and development and all the things that they have going on. We were talking about payloads. These payloads, if you can imagine it, you can make it as a payload. At the end of the day, all those dull, dangerous, and dirty jobs that each one of us have experienced or have seen or do on a daily basis, that's what UAS and drones are going to hope to replace. Not replace the person, but replace the dull aspect, replace the dangerous aspect, replace the dirty aspect. And so that drones are going to make it safer. I can't tell you, just from perspective of agricultural spraying and the agricultural aviation industry, not a month goes by that you don't see some accident of an agricultural aircraft flying in the low altitude environment and you see someone that passed away, or you see an aircraft that was damaged and destroyed, or something else negative happen. UAS can help solve that, not just for that industry, but for many industries. Some of you have probably seen Choctaw Nation is a IPP, Integrated Pilot Program, and a Beyond Program member. They are right now trying to figure out how do we integrate UAS into our day-to-day lives. That is one of the challenges. When the Federal Aviation Administration came around in the 50s and 60s, they had 5 and 6 decades worth of data to rely upon when it came to developing rules and regulations. UAS is so new, we don't have that ability. And so folks like the Choctaw Nation, like OSU's program, OU's program, they're trying to solve this problem and figure out how can UAS better our lives on a day-to-day basis. Now you might be wondering, well, how is this tied into workforce? And we're going to make that connection here in a point. Just wanted to provide you with a couple of pictures, some different drone missions that are going to be possible. Obviously, flood monitoring, aerial photography, communications, airport inspections, power line surveying, construction. Many different opportunities for UAS to be used in the fields that we're talking about today. Obviously, these drones are interconnected. Some of these drones, though, may not have a pilot. Some of these drones, one pilot may be controlling several drones. It may be the computer controlling drones. It may be autonomous. Who here has seen some of the Super Bowl halftime or pregame festivities where you saw a drone light show? There wasn't a single person controlling each one of those drones. It was all done by computer automation. And those are some of the technologies that we're going to see, some of the research opportunities we're going to see with UAS as the years and the decades to come. Some of the early industry users, BNSF rail line, rail transportation. They're one of the first industries to get a beyond visual line of sight waiver. For those that are in the UAS industry know, right now we have to keep drones within our ability to see it as a person. There are a few exceptions to that. BNSF was able to get a beyond visual line of sight waiver from FAA. It's a pretty neat thing. ConocoPhillips, oil and gas companies. Amazon, obviously who here wants to get their next Amazon package in 2 hours delivered by a drone? I'm pretty excited about that. Who here wants to get their next pizza and six-pack of beer delivered by a drone? I'm really excited about that. Who here procrastinates at Christmas and waits to buy presents Christmas Eve and wants to get a package delivered 2 hours before you're supposed to wrap it? This guy right here. The opportunities are endless. They really are. And weather is one of the things that we're really focused on. Weather and monitoring our weather, trying to provide additional data to our climatologists, being able to try and better predict when that next tornado, when that next severe hailstorm may be coming, all those different things. Amazing opportunities are presented to us. Amazon Prime, hopefully coming to a door near you. This is one of those weather sensor drones that we were talking about. Bringing in weather, having the sensor collect the information and figuring out what is the low level of our atmosphere doing. Again, the opportunities are endless when it comes to UAS. We've had some pretty amazing adoptions. Obviously, construction is leading the way. Mining, agricultural, serving, real estate, lots of growth happening with UAS. And we're seeing it because, again, it's those dull, dangerous, and dirty jobs that are being taken over by UAS. And it's not like it's taking the position over. It's just simply making that job safer, easier to do, and you're able to collect a lot more efficient data than you would be traditionally in the past. Drone market size and forecast. Drones are going to keep going up and up and up. It's not going to stop. This is the new way of life for aviation aerospace. And really what the new way of life is, here you'll see some of these highlights from 2020. We're talking about advanced air mobility. And that's what we're going to talk about next, is AAM or UAM. The development of aircraft that might be 2-seat, 4-seat, 10-seat, 20-seat. They're going to move people about a town and community from rural point A to rural point B, local, regional, and urban transportation via air. Now again, this is long range, but I just returned from the National Business Aviation Association conference last week, and half the conversations at that conference were about what is the next Uber Air or the next aircraft that's going to be transporting people via advanced air mobility or urban air mobility. That is the thing that is sucking the oxygen out of the room. UAS, AAM, UAM, and drones. So what does that mean? That means we have drone personnel in the field. We have UAS pilots, we have software engineers, we have hardware engineers, we have maintenance folks, manufacturing, system planners, so on and so forth. We have a lot of opportunity, a lot of career field opportunities right here. But at the end of the day, while this industry has great potential, has great opportunity for growth, the thing that excites me the most about UAS is what we were talking about earlier in this presentation. Getting young people excited about joining the aviation aerospace career sector. Boeing is predicting that there's going to be a 3% growth in the aviation need for workers from 2021 to 2040. 1.25 million new technical jobs, 800,000 pilots, 800,000 crew members and service members that are going to be serving on board those aircraft. And how are we ever going to get to a spot where we can address those needs in our workforce? At the end of the day, UAS and drones is going to be our generation's space race, Cold War, World War II, and World War I. That is what's going to bring this workforce forward. It's because when you get a drone in a kid's hands, at the end of the day, you've seen the light, their eyeballs light up. It really, truly is amazing. So if there's one request that I have with each of you, is how can you get involved? How can you help us meet that future workforce demand? We're trying to lead through a couple of different programs, different curriculum offerings. We can get in high school classrooms. We can get in middle school, elementary school. We have to get to our young people as early as pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, first grade, and get that spark flowing through them system to be able to make them aviation aerospace workers. And I know every industry has workforce challenges, but aviation aerospace, because at the end of the day, this is beneficial not just for our state, but for our country, we must take care of aviation aerospace. And so each one of you, whether you're a researcher, whether you're in the industry, whether you're in public government, take an opportunity to take a little time to research what UAS can be done with your business, what it can mean to your community, what it could mean as an inspirational tool for our young people today, and what that means for your particular program, and what you might say grace over. The AOPA Foundation has created a 4-year high school program. It's a plug-and-play curriculum. It goes straight in high school. Right now, there are 31 high schools across our great state. We're number 2 behind Texas. Yes, it hurts me to be behind Texas, but we are number 2 in the country. At the end of the day, this AOPA program is going to launch us forward. But there are other opportunities out there, and there's opportunities that haven't even been created yet. And I challenge each one of you to go home, see how UAS can integrate into your daily lives if it hasn't already, and figure out a way how maybe we can use drones to educate our young people, the folks in our neighborhood, the folks in our civics programs, our educational programs, our city councils, county commissioner meetings, so on and so forth. And I would encourage you to use drones, use UAS on a routine basis and however you want to. Now, granted, there is some regulatory reasons for what you have to do, and there are some boundaries for what you have to do, and I'll be happy to visit with any one of you about the rules and regs of how to fly a drone, and I know the OSU folks that are in the room would be able to tell you that just as well as I can. But at the end of the day, this technology, it's changing our lives, it's changing the aviation aerospace industry, and I really do hope it's going to be that next thing that launches us for the next decade, 2 decades, century. Who knows what we're going to be doing in the next 50 years. My hope, we're going to be the Jetsons, flying around from point A to point B in an airplane. Thank you guys for allowing me to present today. I'll stand for any questions, and here's our website, social media, if you want to go follow us at the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission. Thank you guys.
Questions?
I guess my question is sort of segued into one of your last sentences, which is, what are the legal ramifications of flying a drone in public airspace or over somebody else's private property?
Well, I'm going to preface my answer with I am not an attorney, so if you have concerns, please check with one. At the end of the day, the nation's airspace and what FAA will tell you is we own the airspace from the blades of grass to the heavens. There are other legal precedents out there that would debate that you own some of the private property airspace above the ground, but where that's at is unsettled law. There is no state or federal piece of legislation that has put that boundary of where can and can't you fly. Right now, at the end of the day, the FAA believes you can fly from the blades of grass to the heavens. Obviously, there are other regulatory restrictions in there, about 400 feet, and other, if you're going to fly commercially, if you have a specific waiver to fly beyond visual line of sight or beyond 400-foot altitude. But yes, the concern about privacy is an important one. But at the end of the day, it's going to be decided and litigated through the courts. I would encourage anybody that is interested in flying drones not to be dissuaded by that uncertainty. There are a lot of opportunities, there are a lot of good standard operating procedures, a lot of people that have already forged this path, and it's all over the web. It's something that we can help you with if you have questions or concerns. But at the end of the day, the answer to your question is there's no real defined boundary for where public airspace and private airspace begins or ends at this particular point in time.
Test. The drones typically, I guess, have sort of a built-in self-monitoring of the energy use so that I guess it can return to home base before it's depleted, so it doesn't just fall out of the sky, right?
Yes, so UAS, depending on the type of UAS that you would acquire, a lot of them have the return to home feature. Some of them have a pre-programmed landing spot. It all kind of depends on what level of drone you're purchasing, whether it's the $100 toy drone that you're going to buy from your local box store, or if it's going to be a $10,000 drone that you're buying for professional use. They all have some kind of automation worked into the system. It's not, when it hits a magic boundary, just going to fall out of the air. Obviously, we don't want anything like that happening in aviation. We don't want any object falling out of the air. Obviously, that can cause significant and grave harm for those folks that are on the ground that may be unaware of that operation happening. And that's one of the reasons why one of the original regulations that was written into Part 107 was no drone flights over people. Obviously, some of the new guidance and some of the new regulations have allowed some flexibility with that. And so most drones, again, it varies from manufacturer to manufacturer, but there's usually some kind of automation into the drone. If you saw the test demonstration about an hour or so ago, those drones were simply hovering there at that altitude without any input from the controller. And so there's usually automation involved with the various drones. You just have to kind of check before you purchase the drone as to what it offers and what the software package will allow.
All right, thank you, Grayson.
Thank you.